Hey, welcome back to another video. We are 9-4 or more. I'm Tyler, and this is my co-host Brandon, and we're gonna break down the Jaguars dominating the Colts yesterday. A game that I think a lot of fans didn't expect to happen or see coming. The Jaguars were what, Brandon, about like 15-point underdogs,
Yeah, it
16.
was something
Like that.
ridiculous again. Yeah.
But once again, like T.Y. Hilton says, every time they come down here, they keep losing to us. They have our number. And now we are 7-0 against the Colts since 2014 here in Jacksonville. What were your takeaways from the game?
I think everybody was just impressed with Trevor. This was easily Trevor's. I mean, the Cincinnati game, maybe it's still, in my opinion, Trevor's best overall game, just because he ran a lot more and was very effective running the ball. Or here, like he was effective, but he didn't do it as much, kind of thing. So we'll see that going forward or not. But overall, he was basically perfect the first half. Like his only incompletions were guys dropping the ball, and that one where he threw it in the back of the end zone where it was like a toe tap. Well, I guess it wasn't a toe tap, but it's basically the only place you could put it without getting intercepted. It was either a touchdown or going to be out of bounds. So I don't really even know if I count that as it's on paper an incompletion, but that was the only thing you could do with it. So
he Marvin Jones actually caught that ball too, by the way.
What I'm saying, it was a perfectly thrown ball with it was crowded, like back of the end zone. It was just, there was no other way to put it. Like I freaking almost said the Patriots. The Colts just played it well, So it's like you can't even fault Trevor. So really, like his only incompletion for I think almost the first half was pretty much either drop balls, which I counted 5, but PFF I think came out and said he had 4. I don't know which one they got rid of, but there was, I think, clearly 5. I think maybe they didn't count the Marvin Jones one or something because he was like technically reaching. Who knows? But other than that aside, Trevor had his best game. That was the biggest takeaway.
Absolutely, especially that opening drive, 8 for 8, like 83 yards in a touchdown. He looked phenomenal. He was really good on third down. But to me, the most impressive play was when that ball, they were around the goal line, third goal. The ball was snapped high, and he rolled right, still got the snap, and then threw it to the back of the end zone for Marvin Jones, where he was able to tap it in for the touchdown. But that was like a Aaron Rodgers, like Patrick Mahomes type of like play right there. And that is right. I think it was Dan Orlovsky for ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
He this one said that is the main reason that why the Jaguars that's why you want to come coach the Jaguars, is because of that play right there by Trevor Lawrence. His ability to extend plays, his athleticism, and that's why he was a number 1 pick. Obviously, he threw 12 touchdowns, 17 picks this year. Nothing, spectacular. It's honestly not very good. But what was given around him, I mean, he still has all the talent in the world. He's not no bust. You got to give him 2 more years. Look at Josh Allen, first-round pick. It took him 3 years to really get going. So we'll judge him in 2 more years, but definitely his best game, especially remember that deep ball he threw, like a 60-yard bomb to Treadwell, hit him right in the chest, and Treadwell dropped it.
He had it just his body. He could, once he hit the ground, the ball, like the way he landed, like his elbow was like the first thing to hit the ground. I was holding the ball and just popped out. Like you gotta catch those, but that was a beautiful ball. Like literally, they replayed that one about 4 times on TV, and it couldn't have been a more perfect throw.
Yeah, and also I think at that time before that drop, he's like 12 or 13 for 13. He started off the game really hot. But yeah, definitely Trevor Lawrence's best game. I was glad to see that. There's actually 2 more people I definitely want to talk about. First one was Walker Little. I thought Walker Little played very well, especially in the run game, pass blocking. I think you have serious consideration now. Is he your starting left tackle? And then at number 1, if you don't trade it away, do you go ahead and just maybe just draft Evan Neal, move him to right tackle Evan Neal? Because Evan Neal and Walker Little, they both can play right tackle. So then you would have both tackles figured out. So Jaguars, I think, are in a tough spot right now when it comes to who to pick at number 1. Obviously, it depends on what GM and coach come here. If we get a new GM, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But the other person was Tyson Campbell. And I'm saying Tyson Campbell for the main fact when it came to the running game, there was this time where
the outside.
Yeah, and he made a Jonathan Taylor lose 2 yards. I mean, he had a perfect angle on him. And just Tyson Campbell, I think he had 6 or 7 tackles. He led the team in tackles. He's someone that's not afraid to make a tackle, which is definitely, I think, hard to come by when it comes to a corner.
Yeah, man. I remember watching that on TV and just seeing Jonathan Taylor go to the outside and Tyson Campbell was there. And I thought, this hopefully Tyson at least, pushes him out of bounds or do something. He did the opposite. He actually like dominated Jonathan Taylor, and we all thought the opposite was going to happen. That play was almost one of the most, it's not going to be talked about because it's just a running play for 2 yards or whatever. But when you have Jonathan Taylor one-on-one with your corner on the outside with no one there, you're thinking, oh, at minimum, he's going to get a couple of yards. The fact that he lost yards, that was one of the best plays of the game, really. It's not a big play or anything like that, but just the sheer fact of who was facing each other, and that's what the end result was. No one would have thought that was going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. We'll talk about the Colts in a minute, but I definitely want to say to everyone, because there might be some comments saying, how come my audio is messed up? It's not my audio. I don't have COVID, just have some, congestion and all that. So that's why, I sound a little stuffy, but let's go ahead and talk about the Colts offense. I mean, besides Jonathan Taylor, I think he had 70 yards. So we did a pretty good job of stopping Jonathan Taylor for the most part. I mean, the offensive line for the Colts got dominated by our defensive line. Carson Wentz, I mean, he looked terrible. He was just doing stupid things left and right. The interception by Damian Wilson, it was a good play call because if you would have threw it over him, he had Mo Alley Cox, right? I think 81.
I haven't rewatched the game that much, so I don't remember the exact.
If he would have threw it high, he would have got it. But instead, he threw it straight to Damian Wilson. I don't know what Carson Wentz was thinking. And I kind of got the feeling that the Colts were like, all right, so we traded a bunch of picks away for Carson Wentz. We're paying a bunch of money. Let's put the game in his hands instead of our best player, Jonathan Taylor, who might win MVP this year, possibly, probably won't though. But they put it in the hands of Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz kind of, now the Colts aren't going to playoffs.
Yeah. And I would say, I think maybe Carson had a bad game because the offensive line was terrible. I mean, I don't know what it is. Quentin Nelson can't guard people, whoever we put in front of him on the defensive line for some reason against us. We make Quentin Nelson not look like a Pro Bowl future Hall of Famer type of guard. Same with Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly was a Pro Bowler. We were getting penetration on the inside. It wasn't just the outside. Smoot was getting there. Roy Robinson-Harris was getting back there quite a lot. Roy Robinson-Harris I think he made what? Did he get a sack? Or I know he
had 7 or 8 pressures.
Josh Allen sack. I know that. I think he had 6 or 7 pressures on Wentz. It was unbelievable, how bad we were getting penetration onto the inside, and that affected Wentz. But also, I think just the whole team in general, we had the perfect game plan, and the fact that they just kept trying to run Jonathan Taylor up the middle on 4th and short, 3rd and short, and the fact that every single time we came up there and just made them either lose yards or line of scrimmage is a testament to how this defense really played yesterday, because no one else has been able to do that all year. Everybody's known Jonathan Taylor's just going to run if there's a short mark, and he's been able to do it all year. He has one of the biggest runs after contact in the NFL. Derrick Henry probably would have won it, but Derrick Henry got hurt, so you got to count that out. But still, Jonathan Taylor breaks tackles. He had that one where Jihad Ward had him, and he was able just to spin out of there. That was his one. Other than that, he never really broke that many. I don't think he broke that many tackles besides that one.
Yeah.
Nothing comes into mind except for that one. And everything else, he was limited. And that's definitely, I think, added to the defensive line and just how bad the Colts offensive line played.
Absolutely. But the Jaguars finished on a high note, kicked the Colts out of a playoff. It was basically
the Lions won. It was literally a perfect day. Literally, I haven't been this happy as a Jags fan on a Sunday afternoon in so long.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to hear any away team fans saying that, we don't show up. I mean, yesterday, unfortunately, I know you couldn't make it because you had stuff to do. But I think they said they sold or gave away 60,000 tickets. So that was actually one of the most packed games this season for the Jaguars. And the stadium was electric, obviously maybe because of the clown stuff, fire Baalke, that stuff. But I mean, the crowd was electric. And if you put winning football on the field, fans will show up here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, we are passionate about the Jag. We should think about if you actually started winning. It would look like how remember when the Chiefs came here, and that stadium was pretty much sold out. Because all the future stuff and everything like that. If you put a winning product on this field and you get good matchups, you're going to sell out at the stadium.
No, absolutely. You're going to have 2017 all over again, where especially when you get towards the end of the season, every seat's going to be filled before, before this game even starts. That's something the Jags always have struggled with. He looked.
That always looks empty, like right at
Yeah.
kickoff, and you're like, "Where is it?" And everybody kind of just comes in. It always is funny.
All it takes is winning. So give us Jaguars. Shad Khan, I'm talking to you. If you're watching this video, probably not, but fire Baalke. Give us something to look forward to.
Yeah, right. Like,
but speaking
I was kind of hoping that was going to happen this morning. I was hoping we were going to be the first ones, and it looks like we're going to be the last ones, which I guess shouldn't be surprising.
No, not at all. But speaking of, GMs and coaches possibly getting fired, let's talk about around the league. Obviously, Matt Nagy for the Bears, that was expected, I think.
Yeah.
Mike Zimmerman, I think you and me were both on a consensus that it's probably going to happen, maybe. He's still a good coach, but they're looking to move on. But I think the one that shocked everyone, like you, me, everyone, especially on Twitter, was Brian Flores getting fired from the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I think Jay Glazer had it as like before, like he was doing, like I was watching some of the pregame, like before, like it was like 12:30, and he was kind of mentioning like he's hearing some rumblings and things like that before kickoff. But I don't think anybody thought he was serious. Maybe it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, but next year if they don't do well, maybe he's on the hot seat or whatever, which I still don't know why he would be. I think he's one of the best coaches. That's all you hear is whenever you hear like the announcers talk about the game, it's always Brian Flores gets his guys to show up. And he's one of the best coaches. That's all you hear during the broadcast. Everything, that's all you hear. And they moved away. And to me, it's the Eagles. Eagles did this last year with Doug Peterson. Super Bowl winning quarterback, had two. After that, they still went to the playoffs twice with a 9-7 record each year with Carson Wentz as their starting quarterback. And then the only year they were really bad was when Wentz got hurt and they had the next guy lined up and Jalen Hurts. And there was dysfunction between the front office and the head coach. Front office wanted Hurts. Peterson wanted his guy with Wentz. They said, nope, we're not keeping your guy. Get out of here. Who knows? I don't think there's too much. I think it's pretty up in the air. I don't know but I think that's what happened with the quarterback situation with Tua. He had that one time, because that was talk about the season of him getting benched. I think was that last year or something like that, where there was discussion between he had to come out and say Tua is our quarterback. And I think there was some turmoil. I don't know if Flores wanted Watson instead of Tua, or if it was vice versa, where the organization wanted Watson over Tua. But you got to think that's kind of what played here, I think, because why would you get rid of him unless you had a complete disagreement on the team moving forward at the most important position? And I think that will come out later of if who wanted Tua, who wanted Watson, because that's the only thing I can think of why this happened.
No, absolutely. It was definitely strange down there in Miami. And Flores, he's a good coach. Players love playing for him. Majority of them. I mean, they started 1-7. They came back and finished 9-8. That's very good. Had a winning season last year. They don't have the best roster. They have good players. It's not nothing like, the Chiefs or whatever when it comes to roster wise, but they have good players. But just to have them go from 1-7 to 9-8, that's very impressive. And also, he's 4-2 against the Patriots and Bill Belichick. 4-2. That's. I mean, who doesn't want a coach that can beat the Patriots and Bill Belichick like that?
They smacked around the Patriots on Sunday. It was not even looking like a game in the first couple of minutes and the half and everything like that. So the fact that their Patriots have dominated this so much, Dolphins have so much trouble against the Patriots. Obviously, every now and then they pull that fluke game out in the last game of the year, pretty much in Miami. But other than that, they've been getting trashed by them. And you get a guy in here that is doing very well against them with subpar talent for the most part and beating them, and you want to get rid of him. That's what I'm saying. There has to be some kind of, I think it was a mutual thing they got rid of. They said, you know what, we're just not seeing eye to eye to move the future of the team. Let's just split up, because there's no reason why the organization would get rid of them if they were aligned.
No, absolutely. We'll see what happens with the Dolphins. Maybe Jim Harbaugh from Michigan comes down. Maybe it's Bill O'Brien. I seen earlier, right before I got on, that a name to watch actually is Jim Caldwell. He's been associated with the Dolphins before. He is a potential, head coach candidate. Or Brian Dabble. Brian Dabble was actually, I think, was the offensive coordinator 0-2 was Alabama.
Yeah.
So that's also a connection. So, that's another good opening right there. But if we're talking about the Jags looking for a head coach, I'm all for Brian Flores, at least getting him for an interview. He's a kind of like a player, not really a player's coach, but something similar to what Miles Jack's saying, kind of like a leader. I mean, at one point in the season, we were 1-7. Who knows? Maybe he would have brought us to 9-8. I would have taken that in a heartbeat.
Right. And he should be either on his drive up to Jacksonville right now, or they should have flown him out like in Shad Khan's private jet or taking the, I don't care. Get him here in Jacksonville. Have him do an interview. We're doing Kellen Moore and Brian Leftwich today. Like, I think more today. I think Brian Leftwich just had his today. And no, Nathaniel Hackett. Kellen Moore already did his last week. Nathaniel Hackett's doing one today, I believe, too. And Baalke's in there. So we'll see what happens, man. But honestly, if I had to choose between Nathaniel Hackett, Kellen Moore, even maybe Brian Leftwich, I would pick Brian Flores over those guys pretty quickly. Doug Peterson, Jim Caldwell are probably maybe on even field just because of what they have achieved is probably more impressive, and they're more, Brian Flores is respected around the league, but I feel like Doug Peterson and especially Jim Caldwell are more respected, and they've had a much longer track record. So that would be the only reason, but I would put them right there at the number 3 slot. And I wouldn't hate if we had him, to be honest. I don't know if he'll come here. We'll see. There's a lot of positions up there open. Maybe he goes to the Broncos and brings Aaron Rodgers with him. You know what I mean? Like, that would be the ideal. If you're a Broncos fan, I don't know why you would not want Todd Bowles to come there and coach that secondary and that defense that they have up there in Denver. That would be the number 1 defense in the league, probably. And Aaron Rodgers probably wants to have a good coach. There's a player-friendly coach right there, has a good defense. To me, that's what I would do. If you're the Broncos, you just go head over heels over Brian Flores and Aaron Rodgers and try to make that happen. That would be the Super Bowl favorite. It would just have to be with Javonte Williams, Judy, Sutton, Fant, like that defense. That would be the direction, I think. And I think that might happen.
No, absolutely. Still, I think Aaron Rodgers, if he decides to leave Green Bay, it's down to the Broncos and the Steelers. That's just if he's leaves.
Either team.
I'm starting to get the more feeling that he's gonna end up staying with the Packers. I just get that feeling now. But who knows?
They have no cap space. I know people want to say like, oh, Devontae Adams is gonna not leave. They're like the worst cap situation in the NFL, and it's not like, oh, they're like minus $5 million. They're like minus $40 million. Like over the cap, not under they're technically over the cap by like $40 million. And a large part is because of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams contracts. You're telling me they're going to be able to pay both of those people and still be able to keep players around, and the whole thing that happened, them posting that last dance thing. I get feelings change, but Aaron Rodgers goes to his own tune. And I think he is going to want out of there. I personally think if he even wins the Super Bowl there, I think that would be even somehow more reason to say, F you, I won back. I think he's going to win MVP. He will be back-to-back MVPs, has a good chance to win the Super Bowl this year, and then could still say, F you, I'm leaving because how you treated me beforehand kind of thing. Like, you could totally see Aaron Rodgers doing that. So I think he's gone.
Yeah, I'm going to get on the fence where he's going to stay, especially the report saying that him and the front office started like building their relationship back up. But one thing the Saints proved is that there's no such thing as a cap space when it comes to the Saints.
Yeah, but I just don't know how they could get both Adams and Rodgers and still have maybe that's all you need. Maybe that's all you need is Aaron Jones, Rodgers, and Devontae Adams. That sounds really good, but I just don't know how they could really make it happen.
Because last year the Saints were like minus 30 million. They still ended up signing a bunch of people. So I don't know.
They also got rid of a bunch of people too. And they did like weird things with that contract with Tyson Hill, and that Jameis Winston was for like a cheap contract from what I remember too. So it's like, I think they got worse, and they're more of a cap than the Saints. At some point, I get the cap is kind of a fake number thing. You can do things with bonuses and guarantees and stuff like that. But at some point, when you're like at minus 50 million, and then you still have to bring the best wide receiver he's going to have to get franchise tag, because they can't physically afford to pay him $30 million a year like the Jaguars could if they realistically wanted to, and keep Aaron Rodgers for the contract that he wants, because that was the whole thing. He wanted to get paid more. And if you can't pay him more with their cap space, they would have to literally get rid of everyone.
No, absolutely. I can definitely I understand where that's coming from. I actually kind of want to pull up the cap and see where everyone is actually at right now.
I just remember I know that we're third. I think the Chargers. Chargers or Dolphins are 1-2. I don't remember the order, but I know we're third, but it's going to change. I mean, I think we're going to be projected between the high 80s. I think that's usually what I see. Like, I think we're going to restructure one or two guys' contract, and I don't think we're signing Brandon Linder back. So, especially if we don't sign Cam Robinson, we could possibly hit in the definitely hit that high 80s mark, low 90s.
No, yeah, I definitely can see that. I'm just going to update to 2022 right now. But speaking of other coaches, it looks like Joe Judge from the Giants is going to be staying more likely. That's what the senses are out there. I don't know why. I think he's a terrible coach. Head coach. I think he was a special teams coach for the Patriots, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But the players don't like him out there. They kind of want him gone. I don't know why you would still keep a coach around like that. Obviously, won't be able to attract talent there. Obviously, maybe because it's the Big Apple, it's New York. I mean, it's a big market regardless. But if you have a player saying that they don't like their coach and all that, that's a negative thing around the league. So if the Giants are smart, they would go ahead and let go of Joe Judge, and the Giants then will become I don't want to say high priority, but it's definitely a likable position just because of the fact that it is New York. It's, you're going to be in the market. You can get free agents, it's just how it is. I mean, the Giants could probably win one game in next year if they get a good coach that people around the league like. They're going to get free agents. It's a complete opposite from Jacksonville almost.
I almost think it's opposite now, and I think you see it in a lot of the NBA now. We have come in such a world now that there's all the major cities that have these big sport things are still viable markets. It's not anymore that it's just New York and LA or Miami, Chicago. You know what I mean? Not Dallas. Like, it's literally, you can be anywhere and still have a good life. I mean, it's not like,
I agree to that. Yeah.
So I think it's still there. I think if you told me, would you rather live in Green Bay, Wisconsin or New York? I would 100% choose New York over Green Bay, Wisconsin. But football wise, I think people would rather play for Green Bay than they would the Giants. So I think that plays more into it. These guys have enough money. They can make literally a living anywhere like they want to and still be really well, especially the top guys. Maybe the bottom guys, maybe you'd be like, oh, well, I'd rather go live there than here. But I don't know, man. I think the Giants are a complete mess. You literally have Joe Judge near the end of the year going on 10-minute rants on listing any type of person he's ever worked with that says they still like me. And there's former Giants players that are texting me every day saying, I wish we were on your team and stuff like that. And it's just it's complete BS.
I didn't believe any of that when he said that.
It's
literally what players, your special teams players? Absolutely. Probably.
Yeah, maybe the special, but literally, are you telling me Kenny Galladay and Kadarius Toney had 0 touchdowns the whole year? Freaking their offensive linemen on other teams that had more touchdown catches than their 2 star wide receivers, their first round pick and the guy they gave more money to. I think, didn't Kenny Galladay's contract be the biggest wide receiver free agency contract? It's 4 years, $75 million or something like that, with a crap ton guaranteed. And he had 0 touchdowns. And Daniel Jones, I think, is a waste. Baalke is just injuries, offensive line. There's no help for him. They literally took a QB sneak on their own 10-yard line on 3rd and 8 or something like that in the 3rd quarter against Washington. That is a joke team right now.
It's last game of the season. You're not going to playoffs. Try something try a deep shot. Who cares?
Who cares if it's Mike Glennon? I actually kind of like that one time they literally had 50 rushes and Baalke and Booker were just going at it with 20 rushes apiece, and Mike Glennon had 3 throws and 1 was interception. But it's at least do that. You're telling me you're going to do a QB sneak on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, whatever it was, on your own 10 in the 3rd quarter. That's pretty much saying we give up. Hopefully they don't injure more of our players or something. It's an utter joke in New York, and they started stealing the clown stuff from Jacksonville. A lot of the Twitter fans, they weren't using the avatars like we were, but they were putting all the clown hats and the nose on Joe Judge and Daniel Jones and all that stuff. But I would rather be where Jacksonville is right now than the New York Giants.
No, I agree with that point. Yeah.
I think players wise see that too. I think players see that too. And that's why it kind of going back to the whole thing is like, I think players right now would rather come to Jacksonville than New York. And I think so. Well, maybe when we get a GM, I think Baalke will get fired at some point. I think there's too much. I mean, we don't know, man. It's sad that we're here. I thought we wouldn't be here with all the noise that's being pumped, but at the same time, I'm not surprised with Shad. But Giants GM stepped down to Gettleman. So they got to get a new GM. And maybe that GM says, you know what, we're not dealing with this again. We made the old regime maybe want to keep Joe Judge for one more year, but he could come in and just say, no, I'm getting rid of him and I'm hiring, I don't know, Bill O'Brien. Who knows? Like, whatever. So we'll see what happens, but I would not be surprised if they hire a GM and that GM's like is able to convince whoever he needs to convince in the Giants organization that Joe Judge needs to go.
No, yeah, I agree. So when we're talking about the openings, we have the Vikings, the Jags, Dolphins, Broncos, Bears. As of right now, we'll put Raiders in there, but I'm not gonna count them until they start their search and all that. So
yeah,
out of the ones that are currently been fired or whatever, because their interim coach over the Raiders is actually doing pretty well.
I would, if on the Raiders, you almost keep him. That guy has done a very well job. He outcoached Brandon Staley, like in the most important game of the year. Derek Carr is playing the best he's ever played. I don't know why if you're the Raiders, like I would very much like if I was a Raiders fan, be 100% fine with him being the head coach.
No, absolutely. But yeah, like the Jaguars, Dolphins, Vikings, Bears, and Broncos. What order would you put of the most appealing? Because for me, though, Vikings are number one, just because the offensive talent is there. That's just for me.
I don't know. I would say I would almost think Miami would be, depending on, because the thing is we need to know if they want to get rid of Tua for Watson or if they're sticking with Tua. Personally, I would stick with Tua. He had like the 7th best completion percentage. They have a ton of cap space. They still have a good amount of picks. They have a really good defense. Their defense actually played very well this year. They got Jalen Water, who set the rookie record in receptions. They got guys there. They got Cap there, and it's Miami. If we're going back to like destination things, Miami would not be a bad place to live. Like, let's be honest. So I would personally pick, I think I would do Miami, Jacksonville, Minnesota. I don't know if that's a bias of Jacksonville, but I think Jacksonville has too many pieces. We saw what Trevor Lawrence did. I think any coach could see Jacksonville and be like, oh, I can build something here. Like, that's what we thought with Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer thought he could build something here. He just was terrible at it. Get an actual head coach that wants to build something here and has that reputation of a winning culture, and you could do very well here in Jacksonville for the next however long we can ride Trevor Lawrence. Whether that's until he's Brady's age or whenever in the foreseeable future, with the way Lawrence is playing, you pair him with a good head coach. You can't say that about Minnesota. Kirk Cousins has hit his limit. He's a good quarterback. I'm not going to say very good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He does not throw interceptions. You have Dalvin Cook, you have Justin Jefferson. But I think when you look over it all, I think the Jags right now as a long-term valuable option as a head coach is more appealing. Maybe short-term, maybe if someone wants to just make a name for themselves and move on, which I don't think once you're a head coach, you're a head coach. There's nowhere really to go up. It's not like college where I'll go be the head coach for Missouri. And if I do well in Missouri, then I know I get to go to Georgia, So I think that's why I would put Jacksonville ahead of Minnesota. It's just Minnesota's more of a short-term success, but if you can succeed in Jacksonville, that's long-term tenure that you can go down, I think, if you do it correctly.
Yeah, so for me, Vikings are number one just because of the offensive talent. They do have defensive pieces, but also I believe when I was reading that they have the number one training facility when it comes in the whole NFL.
Their stadiums and everything is beautiful.
So up there, and I think that helps a lot. Obviously, they draft very well, but they have a new GM. But for me, I just think if you're looking at players, around and all that, and if you're a new head coach as well, maybe like Kellen Moore, Byron Leftwich, going into a situation like that where you already have pieces in place, it's better for you. So that's why I do have the Minnesota Vikings first. I have the Dolphins second. Two, it reminds me of Alex Smith. He's not going to win you a lot of games. He's not going to cost you. I think he's a good quarterback. And like you said, they have Waddle. They have some other offensive pieces. Defense very good. Special teams pretty good. And I believe they also have cap space and some picks as well. So that's why they're number 2 for me. Then I have the Jags. I think it just depends. If Trent Baalke gets fired, I think that becomes the number 2 then for me.
Yeah.
Right now they're number 3. Number 4 is the Broncos, just because their defense is good. They have offensive pieces, but if they're sticking with their current quarterback situation with Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock, they're still at number 4. They're not very attractive just because of that reason only. And then the Bears are 5 for me as of right now.
Yeah, we have pretty much the same order. I kind of, I would probably say the Bears would have to be last in that, just because, you got Justin Fields, but not too excited about what's around the rest of it, and we'll see what happens, man. I do think, but like you said, it changes with free agent. This is going to change. This list could change 5 more times. If Aaron Rodgers decides to go to the Broncos, that's immediately the number 1 destination for a head coach. But they're probably going to get a head coach before that.
Oh yeah, 100%. They'll have a head coach for the next.
You got to think that you taking that job in Denver, I wouldn't want to take it if you told me you still had to run with Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock, or one of these rookies coming out. Like, when you see that, you're like, and you're in the division with the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Raiders. Probably the second hardest division in all of football. And you're telling me I got to go out there and win with Teddy Bridgewater. And if I don't, I get canned like Vic Fangio, who really had very good defenses. Overall, they had a pretty good team minus the quarterback. And just because they couldn't find that right quarterback, he gets sacked. And so if you could see yourself being in there in 3 years from now of being like, if we don't get this right quarterback, I'm gone in 3 years, because nothing else matters. So I think that's why it pushes it down. But I think if you get a coach in there, they're going to change the quarterback situation there in Denver. Who knows what that will be? Maybe they trade for Russell Wilson, Watson, Rodgers, but that would be the only way. If I'm a head coach, I would want to go there. And I agree. That's why it's at the bottom of the list, because the quarterback situation there is just terrible.
And speaking of quarterbacks really quick, if I'm the Broncos or Steelers and I can't get Aaron Rodgers, I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles and calling, what do you want for Gardner Minshew?
Yep.
Obviously, Gardner Minshew is not in a great spot here in Jacksonville. He shined in 2019, 2020. The Jags were tanking. I mean, it's just how it is. Unfortunately, they did lose, to the Cowboys, 51-26. He looked okay in that game, but Gardner Minshew, I think when he has the pieces around him, he can be serviceable. He can be pretty good. I think actually Gardner Minshew would work really well with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's just me, though.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I can definitely see that, especially if they can get Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, Big Ben's going to retire. What are your thoughts on that, though? Or your opinion?
I mean, if you're Pittsburgh, you got to get someone. There's no one in this draft class, at least as of right now. Who knows? They could be wrong. Maybe Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral.
You're win now mode as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They want to win now. Pittsburgh does not believe in losing. I mean, look at them. They haven't lost. They haven't had a losing record in I don't even know how long, since Mike Tomlin's been the coach there. So they don't want to lose. You're telling me you're going to run out Mason Rudolph, who I think is still their backup from what I can know, and you're going to, they're a late round pick. They're not going to get Kenny Pickett. They're not going to get Matt Corral. So what they're going to run with, they're going to draft Carson Strong from Nevada, who has a knee problem, Malik Willis, who played at Liberty, or Sam Howell, who has just been absolutely terrible the last 2 years. Really, he has not been great. He looks like he's more of a runner now than he is a thrower, and so that's not the answers there. Mason Rudolph isn't the answer. If they don't get one of the Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson, you name them, or even I think Teddy Bridgewater could do pretty well in Pittsburgh. I think if you can take this, if Ben Roethlisberger, the way he's playing this year, can take the Steelers to the playoffs, and I got help from the Jags to get there, but they still got there. They still won 9 games? They won 9 or 8. I don't remember. They won
the Steelers.
Yeah.
They went 9, 7, and 1.
They were 8, 7, and 1. Yeah. So they won 9 games with Ben Roethlisberger, as if the worst Ben Roethlisberger you've ever seen in your life. We're talking, he had games where he had 96 yards on 15 throws and 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, and he would still win. So I'm telling you, get Teddy Bridgewater in there, who I think the Steelers would be better, but that's a minimum for them. But yeah, Minshew, I think Eagles like him. He fits the Eagles kind of culture. He kind of has that I don't know, that Philly kind of culture where they're it's hard to explain Philly's culture, but I feel like Minshew kind of lives in that culture too. And I think they want Hurts as a runner. They want a valuable backup. Joe Flacco was never the answer, and he's on a rookie quarterback still, a contract. So I think Minshew's there for maybe one more year. And I think he's fine with playing there for one more year, but I could definitely see a team being like, we'll give you a 3rd round pick next year for Gardner Minshew, and Eagles like getting picks. So I wouldn't hate it, but I don't necessarily know if the Eagles will let him go. That would be the biggest thing, unless it's a high pick. And I still don't think Minshew's not, he may get higher than the 6 that we trade him for, but I don't know if the Eagles get rid of him even for like a 3rd, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't think about it until what was it, before the game, when apparently Gardner Minshew went to the Eagles head coach saying, "What do I need to do to become the starting quarterback here? Because I want to be the starting quarterback." He doesn't want to be a backup in the league at all. So
he doesn't, but
that basically means to me that he probably is going to want to be out of the Eagles as a backup, and he wants to be a starter somewhere, which I don't blame him. Like, who does? Like, if you said you could go start for this team or be a backup for the Eagles, obviously I'm going to choose to be a starter. Like, just how it is.
I just don't know if he's going to get that opportunity. I really don't. I don't think a team out. I think the Eagles, he's at least going to be on the Eagles team next year. I think after that is when his contract is kind of up from what I'm playing the
2019, 2021. So yeah, he has one more year after this year.
Yeah. So I think he'll be stuck on the Eagles. Maybe they'll trade him during the trade deadline. So that way they at least get some, because they know they're not keeping him. Like you said, he would sign with another team to compete for a quarterback job over being a backup. So maybe plays half the year and gets traded, but I don't think Gardner Minshew is getting traded anytime soon.
Yeah, so that's something we definitely disagree on that one. I think he gets traded on draft time. Let's see here. Also, I mean, the Falcons could move on from Matt Ryan potentially this year. Where are spots that you think he could go? Could it be Denver, Pittsburgh? Could he maybe go to his rivalry if they decide Panthers, if they move on from Sam Darnold? I mean, where do you see Matt Ryan at? Because he's still going to play.
I mean, that's interesting. Maybe they do because Christian McCaffrey is apparently up for sale. He just gets hurt too much, and they kind of want to move on from him, as talented as he is. Maybe do a Matt Ryan, Christian McCaffrey. I'm sure I don't even know at this point, because the quarterback position, even if you're Matt Ryan, who's about maybe a little above average, but kind of average, getting older, still might be worth almost the same as Christian McCaffrey, who's 20-something but because of Christian McCaffrey's injury history kind of thing. And then he plays running back / receiver. He's really a mixture of both. But would you think that would be an even trade if they just said, we'll give you Matt Ryan for Christian McCaffrey?
I would. That's tough just because it's a division rivalry.
So yeah, I don't see that happening, but I think that's kind of like a similar value kind of thing. It's just what I was thinking. It kind of popped in my head of like, would that even be a straight up trade? I don't know.
Because quarterbacks are worth more, and Christian McCaffrey is very good. I would say somewhat fair. Maybe the Panthers might have to go Christian McCaffrey in a 3rd round pick for Matt Ryan, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see, that's somewhat fair. But we seem like we're both on the census that that won't be happening because of the division rivalry.
No, but maybe the Broncos go for Matt Ryan. Who knows, man?
The Browns, if they don't want to draft a quarterback,
they're keeping Baker. They've come out and said they're keeping Baker, which I personally don't think is the right decision. I think Baker Mayfield will never win you a championship. I think he's just never going to win you. You can see quarterback like Kirk Cousins will never win a Super Bowl unless everything is 100% perfect around him. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's Baker Mayfield. Even when things are really good around him. I mean, he had Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, like 4 tight ends. I mean, they got one of the best tight end like depths, and they got one of the best offensive lines. They got a very good defense. They had Odell, Landry. Like you would think with that, they would have to be way successful than they have been. And they really haven't been. I would say if you ask most Browns fans, they would say we're actually, obviously they were at the lowest lows for a couple of years and they would take a win. But I think if you ask most Browns fans, especially this year, they're very disappointed in how the team played and how Baker played.
No, absolutely. Baker kind of reminds me a little bit of Blake Bortles, just because he turns the ball over a lot. There's somewhat in a fan favorite. It's just the way, like, I don't want to say look, but just you probably understand what I'm saying. Is like outside of football, they're kind of similar a little bit.
Yeah.
they're fan favorites outside of football. When it comes to playing the game, though, they're just not very good.
Right. Like it's kind of a joke. We call Bortles the GOAT, like best of all time. And it's like, we all know he's not the best of all time, but would you want to go have like a beer with him at the Lemon Bar? Sure.
Like, yeah, he's a terrible quarterback. I mean, he was awful, but everyone say he's one of the coolest guys outside of football, which I 100% believe. Like he loves golfing. He likes drinking beer. I mean, he likes fishing. That's what Jacksonville is. And so that's why he still lives here. But I want to go back to Matt Ryan one more time. If the Giants move on from Joe Judge, could Matt Ryan fit the Giants system?
I think Matt Ryan could fit in a lot of systems, as long as he doesn't require running. I think as long as you give him, I think they do have. I don't think Kenny Golladay is complete trash. I don't think he's great, but when he was with Matthew Stafford, he was leading like the league in touchdowns, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Tony, I don't think is bad. He was hurt most of the year.
He's explosive. He's explosive play waiting to happen.
Oh yeah, he was gonna be here. They didn't pick him. So I don't necessarily. I think he could do well there. It's just the offensive line, and the offensive line has gotten better. Andrew Thomas played a lot better this year. Their first round pick last year. He played a lot better, but their offensive line, for some reason, the Giants could not get their offensive line right. They have not had I don't even know if they've ever really had a good offensive line. Couldn't think of like even a top player for them right now. It might be just completely, but there's no one that jumps out of my mind when I think of Giants offensive line, like other teams.
Yeah. Defensively though, they have some.
Oh, defensively. Yeah. You can list them all, even wide receivers. They've had really good wide receivers the last like 20 years. Running backs too, but for some reason, like can't do quarterbacks. Obviously, it's just Eli and Daniel Jones. But for the most part, offensive line wise, they got to figure that out. And that's my issue with the Giants is I don't think Matt Ryan would. I think he would get absolutely killed, or he would have to get the ball off like under 2 seconds every single play. So
yeah, I can definitely. I understand that like they need to get the offensive line figured out. If they can get it figured out, I think he could succeed up there pretty well. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks seeing the coach changes, seeing where the GM's going to go, what teams are going to hire what coach, and obviously, with the playoffs. And then we're going to get to the free agency, which I'm a huge fan of free agency. I love reading all the reports before free agency starts. Like rumor is this team is interested in this player. And, it's fun talk and all that.
And you look at, that's where teams build you build it through the draft. That's how you build it. But to get success, you really got to get the key free agents. That's what we did. 2016, it started with Malik Jackson. And then you just drafted really well that year too. And then you just did another good class. And that's how the team was set up for 2017. And really beginning of 2018. 2018, we beat the Patriots. That was one of the best games the Jacksonville Jaguars ever played. And then the injuries, in my opinion, still killed 2018. 2018 season after we beat the Patriots, just devastated by injury, and still had Blake Bortles, and that wasn't just working out. Tom Coughlin, all that fun stuff. But if Jaguars can hit those free agents, as we have not been, this free agent class that we brought in was not very good. Roy Robinson Harris has been he had his best game yesterday. Hopefully he continues that to next year. But Rayshon Jenkins, not really great. Damian Wilson has been okay. I wouldn't call him like a complete success.
I keep him around just because not a starter, but I think he's a good third down linebacker, or not third down.
He's a good run stopper.
Run stopper, first and second down guy.
Yeah, and when he gets free to the quarterback, that one on Carson Wentz and that one on Tannehill. So when he gets free, he will hit the quarterback, which might be a bad thing if it's timed wrong, but he seems to time it right every time. So Griffin has been good, but not great. It was funny. He actually, I don't know if he tweeted it or told someone and they tweeted it.
How about the Trevor Lawrence, how he's going to go work out with them?
He's going to go work out with Trevor Lawrence and the receivers because he said he's going to catch every damn ball. Which hopefully, because he dropped 3 pick sixes and at least 4 or 5 interceptions. So we'll see. The draft class was really good this year. And that's what I'm saying. If we hit in this draft class, get a draft class that I think the draft class this year, I'm in the opposite. Maybe that it's not high end really good, but I think overall depth, this draft class is really pretty good depth wise, especially at edge rusher. And we just draft well. We have the money. Let's go spend the money on the players that we need and move forward with it. And I think this team could easily be set up next year the schedule already came out.
Yep.
It's a very favorable schedule, which it should be for the worst team overall. You get the best schedule possible pretty much for your situation. It's not that bad. There's 7 losing teams on that schedule and only 5 playoff teams. And Titans are
also you get the Colts at home, so you can almost guarantee. I don't want to say guarantee, but you might be able to count that as a win.
You would hope we would at least split with the Texans next year at bare minimum. Titans, I still had 2-0, and I still think this team next year, if they get the right pieces, and I think they'll keep Joe Cullen. A lot of the defensive players have come out today and said, we want Joe Cullen to be the defensive coordinator going forward. And I think that will play a huge role in who's coming to head coach. And I think Joe Cullen deserves to stay here. With all this crap going on, he made this defense actually pretty good. Yeah, there's sometimes they slid off the rails, but who wouldn't with all this crap going on? The fact that he got them to show up in the beginning of the year, first half of the season, all we talked about was the defense. That's all we talked about. And then they finished the year like this. He needs to come back. And if they do that stuff, long roll, but I'm pretty not excited, but I'm curious how they do it. And I think if they do it correctly, this team's going to be really good in the next 2 years.
I hope so. I can definitely see it. A lot of players definitely want Joe Cullen around, especially Josh Allen, Miles Jack, some other players. But I mean, other than that, though, I think we'll put a video out soon. Once more coaches obviously get hired, or once coaches start getting hired, because right now it's a waiting game. Right now,
could be soon, but I mean, I'd rather see Baalke get fired before we hire a head coach. Or if we do hire a head coach, I want him to come out and say, "Yeah, I'm gonna make a few changes," kind of thing. But other than that, I don't know if I would be happy. Even if we get Jim Caldwell or Doug Peterson in the next week or so, or whatever it is that we get head coaches, doesn't necessarily have to be the first head coach that we have to get. As long as we get the good quality head coach, that's all that matters. But if we get a good quality head coach and Trent Baalke is still GM, I don't know if I'll be as happy.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I think a lot of fans around that.
I don't think I'm the only one thinking that.
But thank you all for watching. Go ahead and check us out on Twitter, 904 and more, and definitely hit that subscribe button. Other than that, thanks for watching. Go Jags.
The Jags.